So things are coming along. We've got some really happy, healthy annuals here. I pricked them out and they really look so happy. We've got some calendula. This was collected seed. The lavatra was collected seed. The poppies were just in the compost. These are chantilly. I think, do you know what? I can't remember which colour they are, but they're chantilly snapdragons. The cornflowers are labelled Blue Lagoon and Classic Magic. My helichrysum, I was just too late starting them. I just don't know if they're going to make it. They're so small. Some nigella here. And again, the larkspur are just tiny and I just don't know if they're going to make it. Omphalloides here, more calendula. And then we've got some Dorcas here. And then over here are perennials. We've got some sea holly, some more aquilegia, some Jacob's ladder. I see we've got some geums here, some anti-hyssop, Korean mint, agastache, many name variations. This is the pearly everlasting, the perennial sort of winged everlasting. Loads more geum. So they're doing really well. And then obviously I've got all my perennials that are outside already. Some of these I think really want planting out now. So this is one of the bigger sea hollies. We've got some more astrantia here. I'm hoping this is a darker one because I've got sort of lighter pink. There are some more ranunculus out here, but these were much smaller corms, so I'm not expecting them to produce me particularly good flowers. And then we've got more plants that really should have gone out. This is the echinops. Oh, not that one. These are. And I think the echinops that I had out in the field this year have died actually. So unfortunately, these were supposed to be increasing my stock, but now I think they're going to be replacing my stock, which is a bit of a shame. This is that pearly everlasting I just showed you, the smaller versions. But I don't know if it gets taller than this in the ground. I hope so. Obviously loads of feverfew and aquilegia. These were some of my cuttings that we did. So that's a veronica there. That's growing on nicely. There's another one. And then we've got the nepetas. Got a few pots of those. More cuttings here with some weeds, some asters. Some valerian I've grown from seed. Oh, and there's a rogue Jacob's ladder in there as well actually. Finally I managed to grow the cloth of gold achillea from seed. Some perennial scabious and some more of the achillea pastel mix and some little teeny tiny lupins. Then you see I've killed some of my cuttings by not looking after them properly. Dead, but this one's okay. And that one's okay. As long as I keep something alive.
Well, it has been one of those weeks where not everything has gone exactly to plan. I have managed to do quite a lot of lovely filming this week, hoping to put together a really great video this week. But on reviewing most of the footage, it turns out that actually most of the audio is just not usable. You just cannot hear what on earth I'm saying. So hopefully I can put together a video with a voiceover instead. And for those of you that are following my journey and watch my videos regularly, you will know that it's not unusual for me to be rushing around. And of course, that is exactly what happened again this week. But unfortunately, because of me not concentrating on what I was doing, not putting my equipment away properly, I did manage to cut my thumb. And I felt really stupid once I'd done it, because if I had have just taken my time and if I had have been concentrating on what I had been doing, of course I could have prevented the accident, the injury happening in the first place, because then of course it means the commission that I was in the process of making had to be finished with me trying to stem the flow of blood from my thumb, which was not ideal, and it did make finishing this commission far more difficult than it needed to be. But anyway, finally we got there in the end. I found myself incredibly distracted this week, which is not unusual. I'm always chasing my tail and trying to work my way through an ever increasing list of jobs. But for some reason this week, I just kept finding myself trying to complete jobs which were definitely not priorities, and really could have waited. And I really should have been concentrating on jobs that need to be done now. How about you? Are you somebody who just gets continuously distracted by other jobs in the garden or maybe in your home when you really should be doing something far more important?
Before I get distracted by anything else, let's cut these flowers. So we've got some alchemilla mollis, which I'll cut, some dorcas, some dahlias, and probably some straw flowers. And that's probably about it.
So I headed into the cutting garden this week to make my last and final cut of the season, which is partly a little bit sad, but it's always actually a bit of a relief. As I mentioned in a previous video, the main flower that I still have available for cutting in the garden are of course my dahlias, and I'm really thankful for that because we did have a frost a few weeks ago, and I know that lots of other growers in my area did in fact actually lose their dahlias at that point. So I'm really grateful to still have mine available for me to cut. And I do not have a lot to accompany them, but I have managed to get hold of a few more alchemilla mollis stems. They're giving me an autumnal flush. They're not quite as tall as they were in the spring, but they're still useful. And then I've got some lovely zinnias in the tunnel and some really nice new Dorcas plants as well.
Now, this is probably the last cut of the season and I need quite long stems, so I really am going to be cutting deep down into the plants.
And finally, having been distracted many times, I did actually get to do some jobs that were on my list and a priority. And one of those was to label my dahlias. And what I actually did as well at the time of labeling those dahlias that I like and I want to keep and I want to grow again next year, I did actually pull out some of the dahlias I don't particularly like. And also, I pulled out quite a few of my golden scepter dahlias just because I've got far too many of them and I really don't need to be growing quite so many. And as if I hadn't received enough exciting deliveries over the last few weeks, I did have another one. And this time it was a turn of my ranunculus claws and my anemone. So I got to work on unboxing those as more or less as soon as they arrived so that I could put them soaking just in some fresh clean water, and I just soaked them for about 4 hours before I went about planting them. Not so much planting them, but just sort of resting them on top of some compost ready to still sprout. I think the rule of thumb is high and dry. I don't want to get them too deep into the compost because where I've done that in the past, I have had problems with them rotting. And the good news is that they are starting to show signs of life. So I'm really excited for those to get growing. And this year, my intention is to grow those in the polytunnel. See, there's some more down here.
And the anemones are covered up as well, and they're also starting to do their thing. Very exciting.
I am so easily distracted, and would you believe I set out to clean some buckets so that I could go and do the last cut of the season. And as I was, putting the soap into the buckets to give them a really good clean, I looked at the greenhouse, I looked at the soapy buckets, and I decided very spontaneously that I was actually, instead of cleaning the buckets, I was going to use that soapy water to clean the greenhouse. And initially, I thought I was just going to clean the outside of the glass. But before you knew it, I was dragging everything out of the inside of the greenhouse to go ahead and clean that as well. And actually, I'm really glad I did, because I found so many snails hiding in that greenhouse, which of course probably would have eaten all of the plants that had overwintering in there. So of course they were evicted. Knowing my luck, they'll probably be back in there by now, because I just sort of threw them a long way. And I know a friend of mine did an experiment where they marked the shells and proved that actually the very same snails ended up more or less where they'd found them previously. It was a really good opportunity for me to take a lot of things out of the greenhouse that perhaps didn't need to be in there. And then when I put all the plants back in, it was actually a really good opportunity to just move them around a bit and just make things a bit neater and tidier.
A much cleaner greenhouse. Can see my reflection in the other end. Perennials all growing on nicely. And then we've got some annuals as well.
And honestly, once I'd finished the greenhouse, it looked so great that you probably know where this is going. I took one look at the polytunnel, which was equally green on the outside, and decided that probably it would be a good idea to clean that as well. Thankfully, I couldn't get completely distracted by the polytunnel, because I really didn't have time to clear the polytunnel on the inside and clean the inside. And honestly, I'm still cutting a few flowers in there, so I haven't quite got to the point where I'm ready to say goodbye to those things yet, although it will be happening very soon.
I was already wet from doing the greenhouse, so I've been distracted yet again.
So the flowers that I was cutting this week were for what will probably be my last commission of the season. And sadly, it was another funeral tribute, again for a lady who had been a keen gardener, and her husband together had created the most beautiful garden from a blank canvas. And it was really important to the lady's husband that I could, if possible, incorporate some of the foliage and flowers and plants from within their garden, which they've been working together on for many years. And it was a real privilege to be able to go to this gentleman's garden and to cut some of his beautiful flowers. And it was only a shame that the visit were under such sad circumstances, because it really was a beautiful garden. And I always feel extremely privileged to be asked to make these funeral tributes, and even more so to be able to actually walk around the garden that had been lovingly created by the person who sadly the tribute is to commemorate. It will not surprise you to know that I have had another delivery, but I'm going to save that one for a different video. And of course, you can probably all guess exactly what that delivery is, and it is my spring bulbs. And actually, I haven't really ordered very many this year, but I hope to go through with you what I've got and what we'll be planting in next week's video.